over here to Stan. We talk about those Heath Hawks. Rodney's second season. Went 9-3 last year, 5-1 second place. Offense, you have 4 returning. Defense, you have 3 returning. By district, they beat Saxe, and then y'all got a little taste of what Rockwall's had.
We did, yeah.
Here.
Well, and so 9-3. I mean,
you
know, obviously everybody knows kind of a tough end of the year in 2023, into the school year in 2023, a new coach coming in.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, hey, I think everybody would have been fine if you go 7-3.
Sure, I think that's what most people were
everybody was
expecting.
like, sure, you're fine.
Right, absolutely.
You know, nobody was upset. And your 3 losses are Denton Geyer week 1, Rockwall, and Duncanville in the playoffs. And, you know, you're like, okay, if those are your 3 losses on a 9-3, you probably did fine because Geyer.
The Geyer game was deceiving as far as you played well.
It was closer than the score.
Right.
I mean, it was 24-21 at half.
Right.
And so, you know, definitely the Rockwall game obviously got out of hand in a hurry.
Right.
And I think some of that's just, man, Rockwall's just been so loaded with talent lately. But interesting point to make here. It'll be the first time in 6 seasons that we're not calling a Hoover at quarterback.
Right, that's true.
Because you had Josh before Caleb, and then now Caleb's graduated, headed to Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
And so you've got a quarterback who got some time last year while Caleb was injured. Landon Dutka is coming into his senior year. Great kid, great family, very talented, really smart. And you know, he's 5'10" and like 175 pounds, so he's not this imposing. You know, we've had a 6'3", 225, 230, and then Josh was 6'1", 6'2", 220. You know, you've had these pretty commanding presence, and then Landon comes in and it's like, okay, who's this kid? But I was talking to Rodney about him, and he said, you know, when he got there last spring, or 2 springs ago now, you know, or no, it was last spring. Sorry, last spring he gets there, and Landon's a safety. They've got him on the defensive side of the ball, but he's been a JV quarterback. You know, he's a baseball player. I mean, just a great kid. And Rodney's like, you know, well, we've got Caleb Hoover, starting quarterback, playing baseball. You've got Mick Randall, second string quarterback, playing baseball. You've got Colt Flowers, starting quarterback, third string quarterback, playing baseball. So who's going to be the quarterback for spring drills, right?
Yeah.
And the coaches are like, sorry, Coach, we don't know who the number 4 guy is. Well, come to find out, there's Dutka, who's been playing safety, and so they roll him over to quarterback, and then come to find out, you know, you need him in the middle of the year. Hoover goes down with a knee injury, and Dutka stands in and does just fine, plays really well. And so Dutka will be the starting quarterback for all intents and purposes. He'll be the starting.
This will be his first full off season as the quarterback,
as the starter.
You have to imagine he's going to, just leaps and bounds, improve.
Yeah,
that he didn't need. I mean, he didn't. He was so good last year. That was the thing too, where
you're going to see it.
When you would see him, and you're like, this is the guy that you weren't even sure.
Yeah.
If he was going to be quarterback, and he's out there, and he was killing it last year. He was a kid that you did not want to face.
He really came on strong, played well. Heath had a 6-game winning streak there in the middle of the season. You know, kind of towards the end of the season into the playoffs, and Dutka was a large part of that. And so it's exciting to see how he'll come in. We do, believe it or not, I get to go to Highland Park. We start the season.
There you go.
At Highland
Enjoy
Park.
the chopped beef.
Pack a lunch.
So our beg your pardon. No, we'll play home and home. We're here this year, and then we'll go to Highland Park next year.
Give them chopped beef.
In the same way, Rodney doing Rodney things.
Sure.
You've got Highland Park, Prosper, and Mansfield Legacy are 3 of the 4. And then we've got a team coming in from Georgia, Cedar Grove, Georgia, which they were basically the equivalent of like the 4A state champion for big school Georgia, but it'd be equivalent to like 4A in Texas.
How does that happen?
So, similar situation. Had a game scheduled, and it was this coach had committed to 2 teams, and I guess decided to play the other team instead of us.
Said yes to first.
And it was like, man, we're scrambling at the last minute, and this team had reached out, hey, we want to come to Texas, and admittedly, you probably know the story a little better than I do, but yeah.
Well, the bad part was it wasn't as bad that they pulled out, but when these coaches get the schedule, once they're done, everybody leaves. The schedules are set, and Rodney's back at home, and the guy says, hey, we're gonna go to this other team.
Yeah.
So there's nobody left. I mean, he was calling people in Laredo. He was all over the place trying to get a team, and finally fell upon this team because
This
he was
team-
put in a tough spot that he's never been in.
And this
before.
team is actually, I think they're coming to Texas a couple of times to do preseason games. But the Hawks week 3 will have this Cedar
That's
Grove
a
team.
fascinating matchup.
It really is. It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, they are, on paper, it's like, okay, well, they're a little bit smaller school, but there's some athletes. And so
you're from Permian. Smaller doesn't necessarily
No, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Point.
And what's strange is, like, when I was in school, Permian would schedule these pre-district games, and you're like, we're playing Alamogordo, New Mexico, and beating them 68-0, and everybody's, oh, Permian's going to be, and then you get into the grind of the season, and it's like, man, we really, and so you see these coaches start getting a little smarter. They're playing guys
the reason why they do this.
that are going to tune you up for this grind that is
a confident group that's used to winning, that's successful. How for those guys coming into their mindset, and imagine if they were to beat a big Texas high school football program. You know what I mean?
And
so
I want you to talk about real quick that I don't think people remember as well is when Rodney took over. It was a terrible offseason for Heath.
It was
2 off seasons ago. We won't go into it, but it put Heath behind the 8 ball. You couldn't even have an off season.
Yeah.
So he takes the reins and has to take over a team
in April.
I mean, that has had no off season.
Yeah.
And to take them 9-3.
And I think to just reiterate the 3 losses that they had, it's like you lost to the better team. And I mean, nobody's going to argue Denton Geyer, better team, Rockwall, better team, Duncanville, better team, eventual state champion.
My favorite thing he said about Duncanville, because the Duncanville game, remember, Heath jumped out to a 7-0 lead. I think it was like a fumble returned or an interception. And I told him, dude, I thought y'all were, this was going to be, you're going to hang in there till the end of it. And he goes, yeah, we got that 7-0 lead. And then he goes, I kind of blacked out after that. I don't even know what happened after that. He blacked out.
Like you have a 7-0 lead against Duncanville.
Yes.
Remember telling us
and I think and the community rallied around that. It's like, wow, these guys are actually, and we didn't lose, I think what most people are going to be quick to forget is you had a couple of kids that were 4-year starters on that team. Brady Luff at safety started all 4 years. Caleb Hoover had been on varsity all 4 years. Jacob Lozano. You have some kids that Heath lost to graduation. There was 8 starters on defense. So it'll be a learning curve, I think. And in talking to Rodney, he's like, man, we're going to be young on defense. It's a lot of new names, but they are excited about the kids that are going to be playing. And it's kind of cool. I mean, and you guys know we haven't said anything, but I didn't call last year. And so it's for me, it's like learning new kids' names and coming back in and being able to see that. So it'll be exciting.
Well, and real quick, too, I love Rodney and I give him a hard time and all that stuff, but I love the guy. And you had a team last year, and Rockwall, it was so reminded me of a Rockwall team in 2017 where we started that season 0-4 and barely made the playoffs, and then went off and beat. I'm going blank. The Woodlands.
It was the Woodlands. It was 23-17. If you don't remember the score.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And there was a certain comment made by another broadcaster.
That's when I first knew Stan. Stan, I texted in. Heath had just lost their playoff game
to Lufkin.
Yep.
Little Caesars Pizzas.
Yeah, and so I was
home with Des Bryant.
I was joking with them. I texted something because they were talking about something about.
Rockwall's going to get killed tomorrow because we lost 48-7 to Lufkin, first round of the playoffs or second round of the playoffs, and
I texted him. But my whole bit was that they were trying to say, hey, when did this thing turn? And what happened was they had an interview with Russ Reeves that they had to cut off because the second half started quicker than they wanted. So I made a joke, text, and I go, I think the bad luck started when you cut off our athletic director. That's when it happened. And I think they're already pissed that they've lost. So they're like, oh, Billy Quinn's chiming in. Because we played the next day. And that's when Stan threw out the, what did you say?
Because weren't they like number 4 in the state or something?
They were number 4 in the state.
Yeah. And I'm going, there's no way. Like, Rockwall's going to get
5-5.
Yeah.
And we're playing at the Woodlands.
Yeah, you're playing at the Woodlands on a Saturday afternoon. I'm like, they're going to get killed. There's no way.
And on the air, he says that.
On the air, I say it. And I have eaten crow now for 8 years. So, yeah. Because that was it was a true underdog, shock the world.
Well, what I was getting to.
Great game.
What I was getting to was that Heath team reminded me of that 2017 Rockwell team because this is Rodney, just, stereotypical Rodney, where that season may not have started, and you had a great season. It started out good, but that team was so much better at the end of the year than it was at the beginning of the 100%. Year. And that was that Rockwell team too. I mean, it was a deceiving 5-5, and I think the Woodlands were like,
0-4 non-district, and you've played
and
the difference between, and if you'd gone back and looked at it, the difference between the 0-4 team that started district, they had gotten better. You go through that
Right.
the tough part of district. They've gotten better
Yep.
throughout the end of the year. They're pretty darn good. Well, best 5-5 team in the state.
And I would say
easily.
this. I would say when Rockwell
Going
beat
into the playoffs.
when Rockwell beat Heath, if they played again, that's a different ball game at the end of the year.
Yeah.
You know, because remember they played at the very beginning of it was just a team that got better every week, and you could see.
And I mean, you had some wins late in the season. I mean, 35-3, 31-3. You know, and it was. I mean, Rodney and I talked about it. Like you're pitching a shutout in the fourth quarter in a district game in 10-6A, and you're like, man, we're up 31-0. We give up a late field goal. We give up a late touchdown. Pretty solid. And I think it's a testament to, you know, Rodney's got this just uncanny ability to get the best out of kids. But that's who you want. Like that's the guy you want coaching your kids. And it's pretty incredible to see that, you know, he can go really you give him the replacements and he's like, yeah, great, let's do it. You know, we'll figure it out.
You talked about the quarterback. I remember me and David met with Riley the first time. I think Brian was with us too. We met him at Micosina. He had just gotten the job. We're having lunch. And at this time, we don't know who our quarterback is going to be.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, who are you going to even put in at quarterback? And this is when he ends up putting in Will Reed, but we knew that Will was a smaller guy, didn't have a strong arm. And he was like, I don't know yet. We have to see him. And I was like, aren't you worried? And he's like, no. I'm not worried.
We're gonna be okay.
And he goes, we'll be fine, whoever it is. And we were.
Yeah.
And that's his system.
Well,
and that's why Dudka is doing so well, because I think Dudka's a great athlete and a great player. Throw him into that system.
Yeah.
And boom,
Look out.
You got
well,
stuff.
and that's something. I mean, if Rodney said it once, he said it 15 times when we were talking. He's like, I just want to put kids in their natural position. Just want to put kids in their natural position. And so, like, we took a kid who was playing safety. Oh, by the way, he's starting quarterback. Like, what? But he has that ability.
Well, Will Reed didn't have a strong arm, wasn't a big kid, wasn't fast. Ends up breaking all the records at Rockwell, passing records, until Locke comes along. Until Clark, and then Locke.
And then Locke,
But it was amazing because he knew where to put him.
Yeah, and I go back to, you know, when Heath was coming out of the last coaching transition, you know, we're 3-7. Finished the season 3-7, don't miss the playoffs. You know, everybody's like, what are we going to do? You know, I think they had like 60 kids in the program. Yeah, and you know, district hires Mike Spradlin, who was an athletic director but had, you know, a storied high school career. He comes in, and like by the time school starts, there's 250 kids in the football program. And they go, they go to the fourth round of the playoffs. I think we end up 12-2. And
Spradlin was unbelievable.
Yeah, and then the next year he goes to the third round of the playoffs. We go 12-1. You know, it's just one of those things where you're like, man,
it's that coach that has that secret sauce somehow.
Just unfazed.
Because X's and O's are great.
Yeah.
A lot of coaches have that.
Yeah.
But you're right, Rodney, Spradlin, I think Trey is this.
Yeah.
And I'm so anxious to see what Colvin does at Roy City.
And I think he's
putting the right guys
same type
in the right
of deal,
place.
man. And, you know, puts that shot.
Just seeing that talent in the kids.
Shot in the arm.
Yeah.
That thing you can't really...
For the program.
It's a natural thing, I think. And I think they're so good when they hire these other coaches to come in, they find that in these other coaches too. Rockwell's had the same staff.
That's my point.
Almost
Absolutely.
forever since Rodney got here. A few changes here and there because of them getting hired away. Yeah. You know, but Heath is in that same position right now that this is going to be a solid culture for even when Rodney leaves, whenever that is, he left ours, the culture's still here. Yeah. You know, he's going to have that culture. I hope Rodney keeps coaching there for a long time. But when that time comes, he's going to establish a culture. You look at the other schools he's been at, he did the same thing. I mean, Horn didn't do crap until he got there. Then they had a winning culture for a long time. Roy City, got going really well. And so it is a really, really impressive job.
Like Alabama School for the Deaf, wasn't he there too?
I think so.
He's kind of been everywhere.
Yeah. Who are some guys that you're excited about seeing? I know we talked about
Dudka. Logan Fowler, I believe. It's again totally Landon Foster, linebacker. And just hearing Rodney talk about him, this young kid, underclassman, and apparently is a 100-meter sprinter. Linebacker. I'm excited just to see the kid play. But we've got a lot of new names. I mean, we've called a bunch of the same names for the last 4 years.
You.
Yeah, a lot of new names. I mean, and these are kids that my son graduated last year, so these are kids that my son played with all 6 years through middle school and high school. But obviously, Dudka, a couple of defensive players. You got Devon Turner, 6'4", 220, runs a 4.7 off the end, and then a defensive tackle, 6'1", 265, running a 4.9. And you've got some big old boys. And Rodney's words were, "These are specimens." They are specimens. And so I'm excited to see those kiddos. You got a couple of juniors, offensive lineman Marcus Saavedra, 6'1", 270. Zeke Cannon coming in at linebacker as well. And then a sophomore, this is a new name, Carter Zom, runs a 4.5 40 out of the backfield. And so it'll be interesting to see how he plays.
Yeah, because you lose Tuzno and Gentry, who were outstanding.
Yeah, incredible. And Tuzno got time as a freshman as well.
Yeah.
You think about some of the Zach Evans that played all 4 years as a running back.
Right.
And then Tuzno picks it up from him. there have been some great running backs.
I'm excited about because I also have on here Ashton Bradford and Riley Black. I'm sorry, Ashton Bradford running back. Riley Black is a H-back. Yeah.
H-back.
But this is good. But this is the thing where it's fun with Rodney. Because we're going to see these kids excel because he's going to put them in the right spot.
Yeah. Well, and it may be, there's obviously going to be probably 65, 70, 75 kids on the roster, and Rodney will use every one of them if he has to.
And the other
especially special teams.
Yeah,
there'll be 3 or 4 kids that are not included in any of this list that are going to be
and that's
studs.
It's
going to do something crazy.
Plus the euphonium player.
Right?
That's right. Yeah.